Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope the response is as enthusiastic at the end of the speech as it has been at the beginning. It is so good to be here. It is so good to be in the presence of so many enthusiastic Victorian Liberals. It's great to be with my Deputy Leader, Julie Bishop. It's tremendous to be in the presence of the Premier, Ted Baillieu, for this, the 154th State Council of the Victorian Division of the Liberal Party, and for this, my 51st visit to Victoria as Leader of the Federal Opposition. And I know you are always happier to see me when Margie is by my side, and it's good that she is here to see the strength and the passion of the Victorian Liberal Party. It is so good to be here. I want to say to you that yes, we are on track to win the next election. But this is not about winning elections. This is about building a better country. And that is one of the things that sets us apart from the contemporary Labor Party. We do not just want to win elections. We do not just want to hold on to power at any cost. Our passion, our vision is to build a better Australia, to give our country the better government that a great nation deserves. We want to build a better Australia, and we want to build a better Australia on the best values of the Australian people. And we, my fellow Liberals, are fundamentally a party of values and of principles. As Liberals, we want smaller government, lower taxes and greater freedom. As Conservatives, we want to support the family and values and institutions that have stood the test of time. But above all else, as Australian patriots, we support policies that work and that will make a great country even better in the future, that will make our country more prosperous, more cohesive and more widely admired right around the world in the years ahead. That is our vision, ladies and gentlemen. And as I look out over this hall full of very enthusiastic Australians, as I look at all of you, I see a snapshot of modern Australia. I see mothers who want a better future for their children. I see tradies who take pride in their work. I see public servants who want people to be proud of the work of government, not embarrassed by it. I see migrants who came to this country not because they wanted to change us, but because they wanted to join us. I see small business people working long hours to serve their communities, and I see retirees who don't want to be a burden on others. And you know, I see as I look out on this concourse of my fellow Liberals, I see lots of union members. Because you see, these days, the union members come to the Liberal Party's meetings. It's only the union officials who go to the Labor Party's meetings. And, ladies and gentlemen, when I say that we are determined to give Australia the better government a great country deserves, don't we need a better government in Canberra after 5 years of Labor? I have often heard it said that the Gillard government is the worst government since Whitlam. But let me say again that that statement is very unfair to Gough Whitlam, who, unlike the current Prime Minister, did have some vision, did have some standards, and certainly would never have sold the soul of the Labor Party to the Greens under Senator Bob Brown. as Liberals we know, but as Australians the whole country knows, that we have a government which is good at politics, which is good at being the epitome of sleazy influence peddlers. It's a government that can execute a Prime Minister, but it can't execute an efficient government program. That is what's wrong with our country right now. It is the most incompetent and the most untrustworthy government in Australia's history. They could not put roof bats into people's houses without causing more than 200 fires right around our country. They could not build school halls without rip-off after rip-off. They are now spending $50 billion digging up streets near you so that your home can have fibre, whether you want it, need it, or are ready to pay more for it, 3 times as much, in fact, as you are currently paying for your broadband service. This is a government which closed down the live cattle trade with Indonesia in a panic over a TV program. This is a government which is progressively closing down the forestry industry in Tasmania because it can't say no to Bob Brown. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the most incompetent government in Australia's history is going to hit us with the world's biggest carbon tax. The world's biggest carbon tax is just 8 weeks away, and still this Prime Minister and this government can't tell us who the 500 biggest emitters are. Shame on them. Shame on them. This is going to be a monumental disaster that, if the government isn't changed, will haunt this country not for years but forever. This is why we need to change the government. This is a government, ladies and gentlemen, which is spending $2 billion in the state of Victoria not to give you cheaper energy, but to give you more expensive power. This is a government which is spending $2 billion to close down 2 of the biggest power stations in this state, power stations on which Victoria's record as the manufacturing heart of this country utterly depends. This government is so incompetent that they are spending $2 billion not to create jobs, but to destroy jobs, and that is why this government must go. But, ladies and gentlemen, you can trust the Prime Minister, can't you? Kevin Rudd could trust Julia Gillard when she said that she had more chance of playing full forward for the Western Bulldogs than becoming Prime Minister. He could trust her, couldn't he? The people of Australia could trust Julia Gillard when she said there will be no carbon tax under the government I lead. Andrew Wilkie could trust the Prime Minister when she said there will be no mandatory pre-commitment under the government I lead. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the only people, it seems, who can absolutely rely on this Prime Minister's support, the only 2 people in this country who can absolutely trust this Prime Minister to stick behind them, you know who they are. They're Peter Slipper and Craig Thomson. The only person in this country who seems to think that Peter Slipper can go back into the speakership of the National Parliament before sexual harassment allegations against him are resolved is Julia Gillard. And the message that she is sending to everyone in this country who might have been a victim is, you bring that claim forward and I'll accuse you of being involved in a political conspiracy. Well, shame on the Prime Minister for sending that terrible message to the people of Australia. The only person in this country who still expresses full confidence in the member for Dobell, Craig Thomson, is Julia Gillard. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there was a leadership challenge inside the Labor Party just a few weeks ago. It might turn out to be the precursor of another one in just a few weeks' time. But didn't they carpet bomb the former Prime Minister, Kevin Rudd? Didn't they show you just what they would do to people who they didn't like or who they didn't agree with? We had one backbencher, a backbencher in 2007, who was telling us that for the future of Australia, there was nothing more important than the election of Mr Rudd as Prime Minister. One Victorian backbencher who told us just a few weeks ago that Mr Rudd was a psychopath with an ego problem. And we had the Prime Minister herself, who said of her predecessor that he had paralysed his own government and he had sabotaged hers. What does it say then about the current Prime Minister and the Government of Australia when 31 members of the Labor caucus preferred a psychopath to the incumbent Prime Minister? What does it say about the government we have? You know, Australians were recently polled on which was Australia's best government. 96% nominated a government other than the current one. Fully 50%, I'm pleased to say, ladies and gentlemen, nominated the Howard government, the government in which I was proud to serve, the government in which my deputy was proud to serve, the government in which fully 16 members of my shadow cabinet served as ministers. And we have learnt the lessons of the Howard government, and we are the inheritors of the strength of the Howard government. And the longer this government lasts, doesn't the former government look like a lost golden age, ladies and gentlemen? You probably watch a fair bit of political television, as I do. And I couldn't help but notice the other day the Leader of the House of Representatives, Anthony Albanese, almost crying on national television as he lamented the state of the modern Labor Party, saying that he just wanted to get on with the job of fighting Tories. And what was he doing yesterday as part of his desire to fight Tories? Well, there he was, defending Peter Slipper's use of cab charge dockets. That's what the modern Labor Party, ladies and gentlemen, has come to. The party of Ben Chifley has become the party of Craig Thomson. Chifley's light on the hill has evolved, has degenerated into something so much worse. What, perhaps? Well, Craig Thomson's red light on the hill. And in place of that noble vision of Ben Chifley, what do we have? Today, we have the faceless men scurrying towards their red light on the hill, waving the union credit card around. That's what we have. Well, ladies and gentlemen and fellow Liberals, our job as Liberals, our job as members of the Liberal National Coalition is to reassure the people of Australia that it doesn't have to be like this. It never should be as bad as this, and it can and will be so much better than this. We have a plan, ladies and gentlemen, for a strong economy. We will get spending down, because if you can get spending down, you can get taxes down. And if you get spending down, you can get borrowing down. And if the government is not out there borrowing $100 million every single day, then the pressure can come off interest rates, and so home buyers and small business people can flourish again, as they should, in this country, which ought to be the best country in the world. We have a plan for stronger communities, and at the heart of that plan is giving the whole country the better schools and the better public hospitals that they deserve. And to that end, we will do what we can, working with the states to try to ensure that we do have the kind of community-controlled public hospitals that Jeff Kennett gave us here in Victoria. And we do have the kind of independent public schools that Colin Barnett is giving us in Western Australia. We have a plan for a clean environment because we will actually get emissions down. We won't just make everyone's life harder. We won't just make everyone's cost of living worse by hitting everyone with a great big new tax on everything that not even Labor is prepared for or understands. We do have a plan for more secure borders, and don't we need more secure borders on this day when the 300th illegal boat arrived on our shores, because this government lacked the magnanimity and the judgment to leave well enough alone. So we will put back in place the policies that worked, the policies that stopped the boats under the Howard government, the policies that Julia Gillard has been too stubborn to implement. And ladies and gentlemen, we do have a plan for the infrastructure of the future. Oh yes, we believe as much as anyone in faster broadband, and we will deliver faster broadband. But you are not going to get faster broadband by restoring a government-owned telecommunications monopoly. You are not going to get faster broadband with the great leap backwards to the 1960s, and you should not spend $50 billion of government money, of borrowed government money, on faster broadband when we still have trains that don't turn up on time, ports and airports that don't work properly, and when millions of Australians trying to get to work every day are stuck in traffic jams on roads that have so often become little better than the world's longest parking lots. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a better way, and we will put it in place. Just in the last month, my colleagues and I have unveiled a series of new commitments that will make our country better. They say, we're negative. I say, what is so negative about proposing a joint parliamentary committee to have a bipartisan approach to the National Disability Insurance Scheme so that we can get this important national innovation in place in a responsible and timely fashion? What is so negative about a Productivity Commission inquiry to ensure that the families of Australia, the parents of Australia, get the flexible childcare that they need, which acknowledges the fact that hundreds of thousands, millions of Australian families have work patterns that are no longer accommodated by 8 till 6 institutional models of childcare? What is so negative about saying that the 457 business visa program introduced by the Howard government won't just be a component on the sides of the immigration program of the next coalition government, but will be its mainstay? Because nothing would be more calculated to restore the faith of all Australians in the integrity of our immigration program than the absolute confidence that everyone in this country is pulling his or her weight. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I announce a new commitment that will ensure that we have responsible and well-run unions in this country. You might think that's impossible, but it can be done. You see, we think that the business of unions ought to be protecting the interests of workers, not running protection rackets for former union bosses. So our commitment today is to ensure that essentially the same governance rules that apply to businesses and that you adhere to in your business life will apply to unions and union officials as they go about the business of running their unions. In particular, if the same offence is committed, the same penalties will apply. You see, we know offences have been committed in the Health Services Union because we finally got a report out of Fair Work Australia. We haven't got the main report, but we have got one report, and that report clearly revealed that offences had been committed. Now, those offences, as things stand, attract fines of just $2,200 from union officials under existing legislation. If the same offences had been committed by company directors, they would be liable to fines of $200,000 and potentially exposed to 5 years in jail. Well, the same offence deserves the same punishment, and that's what will happen under the next coalition government. And there will be a new COP to ensure that these rules are properly enforced. We won't have the same person or the same conflicted entity enforcing the rules and mediating between the warring parties. We will have a registered organisations commission that will ensure that unions are well run in practice as well as in theory, and I tell you what, under the Registered Organisations Commission, it won't take more than 3 years to investigate an open and shut case of wrongdoing. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we meet today in this marvellous venue, yet another tribute to the energy of a great Victorian Premier, Jeff Kennett, I think we should feel confidence in ourselves and hope for our country. We know that it can be better, we know that it will be better, we know that all it requires for our country to once more enter into what is rightly its inheritance is a change of government. I have a great team, and I am thrilled to see so many of them here today. Julie, obviously. My other colleagues, I can see in this audience, Andrew Robb, the Shadow Minister for Finance, Kevin Andrews, the Shadow Minister for Families, Bruce Bilson, the Shadow Minister for Small Business, Mitch Fifield, the Shadow Minister for Disabilities, Michael Ronaldson, the Shadow Minister for Veterans, and my other colleagues, my other parliamentary colleagues. We are a great team. We are a united team. Sophie Mirabella, there she is, between my wife and David Kemp. Naturally, my gaze was drawn to my wife, Sophie. But now, I'm afraid, it's come to you. We have a great team. But the team is not just us. The team is not just the members of Parliament and the front benches. The team is all of you. And it doesn't just stop in this room. The team must be all of the people with whom you network, your families, your friends, the people you play sport with, the people you go to church with, the people you shop with, your neighbours, because we need a better government for a great country. We will get a better government for a great country if all of us keep working together to that end. That's what I am doing. That's what every single member of your parliamentary team is doing. That is the great end to which I am directing every fibre of my being. We won't let you down, and we know that you won't let us down, and we know that together we can make this country again everything that it ought to be. Thank you very much.